Hello. Obviously, this is me. Um, yeah, welcome to your first video lecture. This is going to be incredibly different to what we've been used to in the past. Please bear with us on that because obviously this is going to change as time goes on. If you've got any suggestions of anything that we can improve or anything that we need to do differently, just tell us. You can either get in contact with us on the classroom or via as emails. As I say, this is incredibly new for us as well. There will be some technical difficulties on our end. So let's get into it. So network system security. Um, this unit is very research heavy. It's not as bad as it sounds. I actually quite enjoy this one. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff in here. It's not just going to be about write this, write this, write this. You will be doing research into things that are more current, and hopefully we'll actually be able to test some of these out. As you can see from Learning Objective 4, a lot of it is research based, but then 4 is actually applying it. So if you do your research properly and make sure that you're not just putting the bare minimum, you should be able to actually carry these out yourselves. So that would be setting up security and maybe even attacking stuff. It depends obviously on if we can come back in. If we can't come back in for whatever reason in the foreseeable future, we will probably do it in small groups. But yeah, this unit will be primarily research based, especially for number 1, 2, and 3. As you can see, number 1 is know the types of social network attacks, so that will be obviously a lot of research about just finding different types and obviously where they come from. Security related hardware and software, that obviously speaks for itself, and organizational aspects. This one may tie into our units that we're doing for systems analysis because a lot of things do rely on this. So obviously when you're designing your system, you need to make sure that you actually take into account like actual security of your organization as well. So there will be some overlap in other areas. This is obviously the spec for it. It's not that bad. There is only 5 pass criteria, 3 merit criteria, and 2 distinctions. So, I mean, realistically, we could probably get this done within a few months if you get your working on time. I'm hoping a lot of people do get the working on time. Um, P1 and D1, I'll probably be expecting in the next few weeks or so. I will put that on the classroom as to when that will be, and obviously I'll talk to you as well when you're in class. But what we're going to go through now is P1. So, types of network attacks. A lot of people will have some knowledge of network attacks. Obviously, it's different for um, different people because obviously they've only known what they've seen either on the news or what we've already sort of seen in class. Um, Most of you should know at least one. So, for example, DOS or DDoS, denial of service. So, this one is quite a talked about one because it's probably one of the most effective ways of affecting a network. Essentially, what this will do is it will brute force a network. Let's just delete that there. So what a DDoS attack will do is basically, right, you'll get computer 1, say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these little computers. And say these are on the internet, so they have to go through the internet. Bear in mind my writing skills on a PC are not fantastic, so this will be improved in time. Just bear with me on that. So, if we look, we've got PCs that connect up to the internet. This might be then connected to a server. say across, it could be like Xbox Live or something. So say this is Xbox Live. If all these 5 computers, obviously, in fact, I tell you what we'll do. We'll say that these are like 5 million computers, for example, so 5 mil. If you get millions of computers to all send the exact same notification down the line, so say they ask for logins, so if they all ask for logins, then what will happen is you're going to get people coming down the line like this. So potentially when it hits this server, it's going to try and reply to each of them. So what it'll do is it'll send a reply back to this one, it'll send a reply back to the number 5, and it'll also send a reply back to 2, 3, whatever. Obviously, if there's millions and millions and millions of computers doing it, the server can't handle it. So essentially what will happen is it will just crash. And that's how DOSing works in a nutshell. Now hopefully I'll be able to show this in greater detail at some point. That was just an example. So if we go back to this, I'm not going to go over them in massive amounts of detail because I have got slides on this as well, but that's a better example of it. Obviously, please research this because it is based around you researching this as well as me telling you what it is. I can obviously answer individual questions on the Q&As as well, so don't just take this as this is the only information you're ever going to get from me on this subject. Backdoors. Now, backdoors obviously are just there are ways into a network that usually people who set the network or set a network up will leave some sort of way in just in case anything bad happens or if they feel the need that they need to get into it for whatever reason. Now, backdoors aren't the most ethical thing in the world because potentially they could leave them in to do their own bad things for it. Usually you should not put these into your network. If you put backdoors into a network, it is prone to all sorts of attacks. Usually they are put there just because an employee who's been fiddling with the network wants an easier way in. So that is a common exploit as well. Spoofing. Now I'm not going to go over too much on spoofing because I have information on that later, so I'll talk about that later. Brute forcing is similar to denial of service. You just keep asking the same questions to the network or server that you're on. The problem with brute forcing is that it can take a while. Technically speaking, it can work, but due to a lot of better encryption methods and a lot of different ways of securing networks now, brute force is a lot more difficult to get into a network. The network would have to be terrible for somebody to brute force attack it. It would have to have basically no security on it whatsoever. Exploits. So again, exploits is essentially anything like an error in some coding somewhere or some software that's not set up properly. It can be anything. It could even be a reason for the list above, essentially. Viruses. I'm not going to go with viruses because we did that last year, and I will expect you to research that. Spyware. Again, spyware is kind of like a virus, but it will send information back to your attacker, whoever's attacking your network. So, well, it could be a network, could be a PC, it could be anything. So spyware is another one that I'd want you to research at least. So what I'm wanting you to do for P1, you will need to describe at least 5 of these network attacks. There is more than just 5. I want you to at least do 5 of those in that list. I want you to do another 2, which I will explain later on. But yeah, I want you to do 5 of those. You need to include where they can come from. So where can a virus come from? Obviously that can come from an email. Denial of service, like we've already explained, can come from an attacker getting a lot of computers, say a few 100,000 or a few million, and attacking a network system that goes down. I would also want you to say who might actually do this. Now the thing is that this could be a number of different things. Essentially, this will boil down to common sense. Like, why would somebody send this out? So, for example, I've put disgruntled employee. So if an employee is not happy with the way they are working, they could potentially put in a back door to cause problems for their employer because they don't like them. Obviously, fraudsters is a big one. Fraudsters use attacks all the time to obviously try and get your credit card details or bank details or what have you. So I do want you to say who might use these and why they might use these, because a fraudster realistically is probably going to use spyware since they can see what's going on your computer, whereas they're probably not going to use denial of service attacks because that just takes the network down normally, so it would not benefit them to do that. So I really want you to think about it and research it and think, right, who would want to do these attacks and how would they actually go about doing these attacks?